What's up? So if you like me, living green and reducing your food waste is probably a little hard and complicated, right? But it doesn't have to be. Not when we're using Waste Not. Waste Not is an at-home composting service, and it's pretty simple. They give you a clean bucket, you put your food, scraps, paper products, and compostables in, then they come pick it up in like a week or two later, and they give you a whole new clean bucket. So give Waste Not a try at home. Check out wastenotcompost.com. Plus, our CityCast Chicago listeners can test the service with a free month by using promo code CityCastCompost, all one word. Today on CityCast Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson is making some big moves. Plus, the Sox are making history in all the wrong ways, and we've got your final weekly festival guide. Helping me break it all down, executive producer Simone Alicea. It's Tuesday, September 24th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Morning, Simone. Morning, my friend. How you feeling?
I'm doing okay, Jacoby. How are you?
Well, I'm trying not to complain. Another week, another Bears loss. I think the entire coaching staff should be fired. But other than that, I'm doing okay.
It's still early. You don't know.
Nah, bro, you know how this go. All of that hope I built up for months during the summer, 3 weeks in, I think people should be fired. It's going like this every single year we've been on the podcast together, G. So just let it happen.
It's wild to watch from afar. I gotta tell you, it is. It's deeply funny. I feel like an anthropologist when I observe Bears fans. You know, like I'm just like marking down the patterns of their behavior.
Well, this weekend, I didn't just have to sit there and think about the Bears. The mayor made good on a campaign promise when ShotSpotter was decommissioned when the clock struck midnight going into Monday. He has also reportedly asked CPS CEO Pedro Martinez to resign. Simone, again, these are some very big moves coming out of the 5th floor City Hall. Let's start with ShotSpotter and remind folks what it is and how we got here.
Right. So ShotSpotter is a gunshot detection technology, essentially microphones that are placed throughout the city that alert police to when suspected gunfire occurs. There has been, for years, a lot of criticism of this technology, ranging from sort of questions about its accuracy, you know, is it actually detecting gunfire? Questions about its efficacy. Does this actually lead to less crime? And then questions about surveillance and over-policing these microphones largely placed in Chicago's Black and brown neighborhoods. What does that mean for the police presence and the relationship between police and residents in those neighborhoods, right?
And Mayor Brandon Johnson, before he was elected, fully aware of this back and forth conversation and ran on a campaign promise, unequivocally saying he would get rid of ShotSpotter, now known as Sound Thinking. And throughout the first year of his term, there were questions from his supporters of like, is he still going as strongly against the company? Are his plans still to decommission ShotSpotter, to take money away? But then, right, a contract to keep them around was signed, which we had some questions about.
In February, when the contract was sort of officially up for renewal, Johnson took kind of a middle road, a compromise measure, keeping ShotSpotter in place through the summer, through the Democratic National Convention, to be decommissioned and, to end this fall. He has kept good to that promise that he made earlier this year. And that's despite the fact that he, over the past 9 months or so, he has received a lot of pushback from city council, from alders who really want to keep the technology. Notably, Alderman David Moore of the 17th Ward has introduced a couple of pieces of legislation, initially sort of trying to, give the power to individual alders to say that alders should be able to say if they want the technology in their ward. And then, most recently, the council did pass some legislation that would give the sort of contracting power to Police Superintendent Larry Snelling. On both counts, the mayor's office has sort of said, the mayor has the power to determine these contracts, right? To make these contracts and sign them. We don't think either of these sort of has any standing. Has on both counts also threatened to veto these pieces of legislation. Hasn't gotten that far. We haven't seen that happen, but it's interesting because I think there is a really strong contingency, not just in city council, but also of Chicago residents who say, why are we taking away a piece of technology from police? A feeling that just having this here, having this tool kind of makes us feel safer. There is sort of a transition as CPD is going to get some historical data from sound thinking and as the sort of transition happens. But as of right now, they are not getting ShotSpotter alerts anymore.
Mm-hmm. And this is one of those situations where the mayor has taken a stronger tone. He knows that this is upsetting people, city council members, member of the police, while at the same time, kind of following through on a long-standing campaign promise. However, I do want to put the pause out because just because he is pushing back against sound thinking and ShotSpotter doesn't mean he's pushing back against surveillance technology. He is, in fact, putting out the call for other companies to essentially pitch themselves to the city of Chicago on how can they participate in our public safety strategy. And so even if this is the end of ShotSpotter's time in Chicago, it doesn't mean we won't be having a similar conversation shortly down the road. But it doesn't just stop here, Simone. We have been looking at reports not only in the last week, but over the last month that the mayor isn't, he's maybe turning sour towards CPS CEO Pedro Martinez. And it feels like those calls are getting stronger and stronger, that the anonymous sources are coming out of the woodworks here. What's the latest?
Yeah, last week there were several reports that emerged that Johnson asked Martinez to resign, but that Martinez declined. And granted, a lot of these...
That's kind of wild, right? Your boss is like, hey, even if they don't have maybe the unilateral power to take your job, they're like, hey, I lost faith in you, time to resign. And they go, no.
Well, and I think this in particular is sort of a complicated one. Number one, the stories that we're seeing come out, as you sort of alluded to, are coming from various sources, right? It's, Johnson himself, his office, we don't comment on personnel matters.
Yeah.
The school board is not commenting. And the school board is the entity that actually has the power to fire Martinez.
It feels like Monday morning sports commentary right now.
Yeah, it's still at this point is a little speculative, even if it seems like more pressure is amping up. Just to kind of remind people what the point of contention is, the divide is mostly financial. Johnson wants the school district to take out a short-term loan to cover pension costs for non-teaching staff. This is a matter of debate because the school district already has a lot of debt. There are lots of compelling financial reasons not to take a short-term loan.
$9.3 billion in total outstanding debt as of June, and an $800 million payment already forecasted in their budget.
Yeah. And so basically what happened earlier this summer, the district, as part of its budget process, sort of pushed that pension payment back onto the city. So it was something that the city used to cover. Lightfoot punted it to the district. Now the district is punting it back to the city.
Hot potato right now.
And Johnson isn't happy about this for a few reasons. Having that pension payment creates an even bigger budget gap in the city budget. But also it complicates ongoing contract negotiations with the Chicago Teachers Union because, the budget as passed doesn't really account for raises, et cetera, that the teachers union is asking for in their contract. And so, this is sort of the breaking point, it seems, based on the reports that we've seen between Martinez and Johnson. There is a school board meeting on Thursday. Again, it is technically up to them if they're going to fire Martinez. They have to vote. They voted for this budget that included, the not taking out a loan, despite the fact that Johnson had been pressuring the district to take out this loan. reports say at this point that the school board may also be turning against Martinez. But we don't know. We just don't know. And that's the thing about this story right now is it's all very speculative, all very kind of almost gossipy to a point.
It's up in the air, but some people are speaking out on it. Stacey Davis Gates, the CTU president, has said that CTU has already taken a vote of no confidence against the CPS CEO and says it's about much more, that whether CPS gets a loan, whether the city covers the pension payments, that they don't like the budget that has been put forth. They don't like the presumed cuts that'll be made to potential staff. They don't like the ongoing vacancies, whether it's librarians or people in the classroom. They don't like how language services are going. And so, like you said, it feels gossipy, but it does feel like this week or next, there is a chance that we might see another very big head roll inside of the mayor's administration.
And potentially, weeks before Chicago is set to hold its first ever school board elections. The reason we talk about these two stories sort of in the same breath, it's because you kind of have, as you mentioned, sort of these big moves coming from the Johnson administration and, watching kind of how he positions himself. But I think the timing here is important, too. We're getting into budget season. And there has been much talk about this nearly $1 billion budget gap that the city is facing in 2025. And, I think certainly the schools question, the fact that this pension payment is now a city obligation, that is certainly effective. But also when we talk about public safety spending, police department spending, a big reason that the Johnson administration said that they wanted to lose ShotSpotter was they were like, it's not worth the cost specifically. And so I think you have to remember the overall context that Chicago is, that we're going to be seeing soon a budget and an attempt to plug that budget gap and what is going to be coming down the line for those different pieces.
At the heart of Chicago, there's Navy Pier. It's a place where the Centennial Ferris wheel gives views for days. It's where boat tours take off and where the music is always on. It's where you can spin around on rides, share around with friends, and taste every flavor Chicago has to offer. This is Navy Pier, and this is what it's made for. Plan your visit at NavyPier.org.
What's up, y'all? I got another fall theater pick for you, and it's coming out of the award-winning Paramount Theater, which is kicking off their 13th Broadway series season. The Full Monty is playing now through October 6th. This musical follows a group of unemployed steel workers out in Buffalo who decide to create a strip show to help pay the bills. Yes, you heard me right. Reviews call The Full Monty a big, bawdy, unabashed comic revival as these guys bare their souls to one another, and yes, their bodies too. If you're planning a party or another big outing, this might be the show for y'all. Groups of 10 or more get special savings. To grab your tickets, call 630-896-6666 or visit ParamountAurora.com. Use promo code CityCast for $5 off per ticket for up to 4 tickets. Again, that's ParamountAurora.com.
So, Jacoby, you're a White Sox fan.
Such a cruel, but true opener to this next segment.
Because I don't know if you know this, Jacoby, but the White Sox are not doing very well. In fact, just achieved is the wrong word, just hit a record. Yes. Can you break this down for me? What is the record that the White Sox just hit this weekend?
On Sunday, the White Sox officially lost their 120th game of the season, tying the 1962 New York Mets for the most losses in a single season. Yeah. We still got 6 games left in the regular season, including tonight. We start a 3-game series against the Angels. And so we are very likely to surpass that record. It's been hard to watch the range of emotions I felt in just the 3 years on the podcast. At one point, we were having conversations about like, is this team for real? Like, can they get back to the playoffs?
I think we had a title that was like, could these Sox go to the World Series? Maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, we did. And now we here. And now we here. The exact same week that ownership put up a fake baseball diamond at the 78 in the South Loop, sort of continuing their pitch for getting public funds to build another $1 billion stadium. For what? For what? The White Sox were putting up the worst season in baseball history.
I had a friend over the weekend who was like, if they're going to keep losing and they're going to beat this record, I kind of want to see it happen, which I think is fascinating because it sounds like at Sox Park, they're doing like a fan appreciation, like for the rest of the season, basically.
For these last 3 games, they're going to have $10 tickets, $10 parking, $5 beer, dogs, nachos. They got a whole list that you can find. But I will say the most enjoyable part of this, maybe last week, for example, because about a week ago, the White Sox were on like a 2-3 game winning streak. But apparently the people who run the White Sox X account, formerly known as Twitter, this really got their hopes up because they were tweeting hard about this White Sox winning streak. And the minute that they got back to their losing ways, it feels like whoever runs that account fell right off the deep end, because after that, the tweets have just been off the hinge. One read, final, the number of runs we scored was not greater than the number of runs they scored. Final can be found on the MLB app. And then there's just a picture of a car driving off the highway with the options being stay on the highway, post final score, get off the highway, literally anything else. And it's had, I think, everybody who is a White Sox fan, everybody who has been suffering alongside this absolute abysmal season, it's made us laugh. It's obviously somebody inside was like, let's get in on the joke. And it's provided some relief the last couple of days. You know
what I think the difference between the Sox losing streak and the Bears abysmal seasons, the past couple seasons, is I think in baseball, it can be funny because the idea of losing 120 games,
they play so
mathematically,
many
like it's one thing to lose 10 of 12 games, right? You know what I mean? Like that's one thing, but to lose 120 games, like,
and that's just one season is it hurts. It hurts.
You have to laugh at that point. There's nothing else to do but laugh. Jacoby, speaking of laughing, folks can check out at CityCast Chicago's Instagram page. You did a little video where you compared these White Sox to some of the other worst teams in Chicago history. And I learned a lot. It was very historical. I liked it.
Yeah, we talked through the worst seasons of the Sky, of the Hawks, of the Cubs, Bulls, Bears. And I think people's outcome on who is the worst team in Chicago history, I don't think it'll be surprising to anybody who watches the video. It's been a tough season. Shout out to people over at White Sox X, White Sox Twitter for making us laugh these last few days. Hey, the brims still go crazy. I just bought a new baby blue Ron Louis White Sox hat that I rocked last week. And so, hey, the logo's still tough.
The Sox are lucky they're stylish. They're lucky they're stylish.
Hey, we gonna do what Chicago sports fans do. All summer long, thanks to our sponsor, Revolution Brewing, we have been talking festivals, some of our favorite festivals, most anticipated, some of the most controversial festivals coming up that week. And this is the last festival update of the season. Simone, what has it been like for you? I feel like this has helped both of us to kind of fill out our weekend calendar, but at the same time, we do it every week at the top of the week, which allows us to dream.
It has been such an aspirational summer, Jacoby.
That might be too long to replace brat, too many syllables, but aspirational summer.
It is aspirational summer. That is exactly what it was. Because I think I mentioned, I don't know, maybe I probably only mentioned like half a dozen festivals that I was like, oh, I'd really like to go to this. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if I made half that. I'll be honest with the people here. I tried. Stuff came up.
No, I appreciate you, Michelle, Sydney, the entire team for just coming together to helping to put together an entire summer calendar.
Jacoby, what was your favorite fest that you did manage to attend this year?
All right, so this came down to music performances because that's where I did spend a lot of my outdoors time, was seeing some good performances. And after I saw Brittany Howard at Pitchfork, I was certain I would see nothing close, nothing even close. I got to be in the pit. I got some amazing photos. I got to be out there with two of my oldest childhood friends. Shout out to Denisha and Chris, who I've known since I was in the 6th grade. And then I got to be out there with Taylor, and it was a fantastic performance. And then I saw John B at the Taste of Chicago. And for me, that was the most nostalgic performance I saw all summer. And so those are running side and side. I saw John B with my homies Goldie and Cord, and that was a great time as well. And so those were tied for my favorite festival moment. What about for you?
For me, I think it was Midsummer Fest, which means I peaked early. I peaked quite early in the season, but I think hands down, it was the experience of getting to make a flower crown. I still have it. I hung it up and I dried it out. It really felt like, yes, summer is here and I'm out here and I'm experiencing it.
What was for you the biggest moment of the Chicago festival season, whether you were there or not?
I think for me, it has to be Chappell Roan's crowd at Lollapalooza, her record-breaking crowd. Number one, as stated, I am on the record as being a massive Chappell Roan fan.
Hey, you put me on. I've been listening to some of the tracks, G.
Yeah. When you see those videos of her crowd, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is really a moment. I mean, one of the biggest artists of the summer, kind of at one of the biggest festivals of the summer. It just felt like, it felt like Chicago was like the center of everything in that moment. You know what I mean? The center of music.
100%.
What about you? What's the biggest moment from festival season?
It had to be Chief Keef at Summer Smash back in the Chicago area for the first time in over 10 years. Hearing him perform songs across a decade plus, from Almighty Soul 2 all the way back to Finally Rich, it made me remember that this man has released over 50 projects in the last, call it 15 years, and yet has never really gotten to perform that in his city for a lot of reasons, which we ain't going to now. But to be out there and to see just how many people were out there, to see him with his daughter on stage, I don't know. That was such a cool moment. I got to be there. Probably one of the last times I'm going to be in a crowd of that size. I think I'm getting to the point where I can't do it as much, but again, got to take some great photos. I'm glad I got to say I was there.
What about something you miss? When did you feel the most FOMO this summer when it came to festivals?
I'm gonna be real. When we back in June started talking about what our aspirations for the summer was, I thought I was gonna go to more parades, and I went to none. I didn't get out to the Chicago Mexican Independence Day parade, and I wanted to. I didn't go to the Chicago Puerto Rican Pride Parade like I wanted to. I didn't even get out to the Bud this year for the first time in some years. And so I think next summer, I think I'm going to hit it. I think I'm going to be out there a little bit stronger. It's one of the easiest ways to get out into a neighborhood and really feel be a part of the people who live and help build those neighborhoods. And this was a summer where I lacked on that a lot. What about you? Where did you feel like you missed out the most?
There were just so many festivals that I could have walked to and didn't. So I think number one on my list is the Argyle Night Market, which was happening on Thursday nights in the summer. And I just, for whatever reason, on Thursday nights, I got really sleepy and I didn't want to. And then most recently, I was up in Lincoln Square and I just happened to be up there, but it was late and I caught the tail end of Oktoberfest. And I kind of saw it and the band was still going, it was pretty good, but all the stalls were kind of shutting down. And I was like, oh man, I kind of wish I had gotten here. I was like, what was I doing today? Why couldn't I just come up here a little earlier and grab a beer? That would have been nice. So I think just remembering to literally walk outside my apartment might be a good note for me next year.
Hey, well, luckily we still got another weekend of festivals coming up that we want to put people on. So, Simone, what are a couple that are on your radar this week?
Yeah, the Randolph Street Market Festival is happening this weekend, and there is another Oktoberfest happening in Lakeview. There's also several suburban Oktoberfests happening this weekend, Hyde Park Jazz Fest, and the Sky Blue Music Festival in Woodlawn, all happening this weekend. And there are some festivals, etc., happening in October, a little more fall themed, a little less summer neighborhood fest. But for us, this is the official end of festival season. So we'll talk more next year, I guess.
Hey, a couple of weeks ago, I got up to the Block Club Chicago block party at the YMCA in Logan Square. And this weekend, I'm going to try to get over to that Sky Blue Music Fest at the Southside YMCA. They're going to have a spades tournament out there. RM Bingo is going to be out there. And of course, food and some great performances as well, celebrating all the love people got for the neighborhood. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. Simone, this has been a great segment. I'm really glad we did this. Shout out to everybody over at Revolution Brewing. Before we get out of here, we did want to quickly clarify something that we talked about in last Friday's episode, and that's related to same day voter registration.
Yeah, so thanks to listener Trevor in Uptown who pointed this out. We had talked about how Illinois allows for same-day voter registration if you need to register to vote on election day, for example. But one thing that's important to note is you want to make sure that you go to your polling place and your precinct to do it. Don't just go to any old polling place. And if you don't know where that is, you can look it up at chicagoelections.gov. Obviously, you don't need to worry about this if you're already registered to vote or if you just register online by October 20th.
I did run into that problem once before trying to register on the same day. And the funny thing was, where I was registering was a church 2 apartments over from where I lived, and it was not the right polling place. And so I had to go all the way back to, I was on 71st and Stony Island. I had to go all the way back to the Blackstone Library in Hyde Park. And so, yes, check ahead of time. Type in your address, find out where you need to go. But again, if you are planning to vote, register early to save yourself the hassle. A huge shout out to our executive producer, Simone Alisea. Shout out to Simone.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
And of course, I want to give a huge thank you to everybody who is listening to CityCast Chicago, who reads Hey Chicago. My gift to you today, some good news. Damn, that was good. I ain't even gonna lie to you. Anyway, this Wednesday, get outside in Pilsen and enjoy the Pueblo Market. They're gonna have live music, food, vintage pop-ups, and more. You can check the link in the show notes for the exact address. And the homie Chef Manny gonna be out there with herbal notes. If you know, you know. As always, we appreciate you for listening. We're gonna be back bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace. I have drank more Revolution beers this summer than I have in any previous summer. So I guess it worked. I don't know if it worked for the listeners, but it worked for me.
It worked for you, I guess. Yeah. I also now am like, hey, Revolution. I know them.